I wanted you to comment on the principle of obsession in Morandi's work, of repetition. What is your approach to that? Yes.
So the principle of repetition is a principle which exists in the Morandi catalog, but it was not so strongly underlined or remarked by Morandi himself. One of the experiments we can do is to take, for examples, the really few exhibitions, where Morandi reconstructed his own career. The first one is in Rome in 1939, then the Venice Biennale of 48, then in Zurich 1956, and then in Sao Paulo 1957. And parallel to these exhibitions, these retrospective exhibitions, which were curated and wanted by Morandi himself, there are the books of the painting of Morandi, which Morandi curated himself. He chose the images for auto-represent, for self-represent. Well, the principle that we love of the little variation between one painting and another, one still life and another, whether a landscape and another one,
yes,
was not so strongly underlined, was not so evident in Morandi's will. It's one thing we have to consider.
Okay.
He wanted to emphasize in his work the variety of styles, of brushes, of colors, of intentions in his painting. Close in the strong perimeter of the two genders, still life and landscape, and
self-portraits.
Oui, mais il y a le dernier.
In English.
1928, it's very, very difficult to. And he never wanted to be represented in a retrospective exhibition with self-portrait. No, he didn't want to.
That's interesting. Okay.
No, he considered. He considered himself as a painter of landscapes and still lifes. And in his categories of values, the landscape were in some way more important than still life. Now we are used to accustomed to consider the still life, the chef d'œuvre, the point le plus haut de la recherche de Morandi. Morandi, son meilleur...
In English.
Oui, il considérait le
in
plus
English.
important...
Speak English, please.
Okay, sorry. Morandi considered the landscape as the points of reach of his research in every period of his life. Well, he didn't show in his exhibitions paintings that were so similar, where little variation in the position of a bottle, of a pot, of a dish. Well, he didn't want this kind of a self-interpretation as an abstract painter, because the current interpretation of the variations of Morandi's cycles of his lives and the cycles of landscape is that he doesn't represent the table with the objects. He doesn't represent what he sees from his window in Grizzana, but he represents the act of painting with the relationships between the parts, the colored parts inside the painting itself. Well, it was not an interpretation of Morandi liked very much.
But what did Morandi want to do in his painting? What's the point for him?
He said 2 times what he wanted in his life, 128, 156. He said that the reality is not understandable and not explainable by humans, if not by geometry, if not by forms.